So, you know, last video, how I mentioned I have this random good luck every now and then where I'll be approached out of the blue to do voice acting for a movie. Or things like Punk Rave Australia. That just happened so randomly as well. I have that good luck, and then I'll have a string of bad luck. Well, sure enough, right after saying that yesterday, today was a bad luck day. It was just an awful day all round. I still, it took me a while. I'm doing a bit better now, but I still have the sort of depression headache, and that heavy feeling. I don't know if everyone has this depression headache the way that I experience it, but I know the difference between a depression headache and a sickness headache or an eyesight headache or whatever. Yeah, so I'm doing better now, but most of my day has been a struggle, and it was a real shame because I wanted to record some metal vocals. And, I even set up my project files and all that, and I just couldn't do it. It wasn't until after dinner that I finally had the energy to even do singing practice. In the end, I did get there and do a good practice, but, oh man. So, and, I wonder if part of it is because, I've had a lot of music things to do, and maybe I've overdone it. Also, I went on that outing, which I probably won't even make a vlog about now. But yeah, I went on that outing and really pushed myself that day, and then had to spend the next day recovering. And yeah, maybe I'm bad at judging, my limits and where the burnout's gonna come. But there are a lot of things today that I think, maybe everything I've been doing has sort of been, simmering along. But the actual crash point today was very much because of circumstances. I am going to be checking some notes. I've been making notes gave my friend a summary, but I also make notes for my psychologist. And today, there have been a lot of notes. But to start my day, so a summary, and there are some details I'll leave out, but a summary of course, sleep, big problem. Some nights I sleep better than others, but last night, a lot of music going through my head, music I'm trying to learn, music I'm trying to write, and it's just on this loop. I probably did sleep more than I think, but it was just... And then, of course, it gets up to 5:50, I think, is when my little brother started yelling. He's got disabilities, so hey, what can you do? Yeah, that sort of noise, family noise, garbage trucks going by... at least I think that's what that noise was. There's also been a lot of construction around, and when they start up, it's just, oh. So there's that kind of stuff. And then because that was all keeping me awake when my brain really wanted to be asleep but wasn't really playing ball, I start overthinking stuff. And, there's been things that I've been trying to organize about my life. And like an idiot, I asked my parents for advice. And they kind of just sort of had brushed me off earlier in the week and, just kind of not showing any interest. And I shouldn't be surprised at this point, but I guess, the instinct, the parent-child instinct thing, I think is so strong that even with, me knowing that, my family's not like that, and all the stuff I've worked out about glass child trauma kinds of things, all the analysis I've done of my past, I still keep falling for that instinct shit. And so I didn't get help from them and, messed up a few, administrative things. And then so this morning I was having a bit of a panic about it. When I'm not sleeping so well, sometimes I'll just try and, think of, there's some fantasy stories that I've kind of been writing in my head for a very, very long time. And so I sort of imagine that. And some days it's successful in sort of making my brain think about that stuff, and then eventually I'll fall back to sleep. But today was one of those days where instead of doing that, and instead of being able to do that, my brain decided to stress about things. And I think when I'm tired and in that early morning phase of waking up, my brain, I don't have full control over my thoughts. They can do all this CBT shit as much as they want. If my brain is actually not capable of diverting my attention and, decatastrophizing and all that, there's nothing I can do about it. I don't have full control over these things. And emotions as well. We don't have full control. It's just, yeah. So I had a little bit of a panic and, rolled over, grabbed my phone, messaged my godmother. And then I read some articles. And then I think, yeah, by the time I came back to look at Messenger, she was replying and, giving me some advice, and then called me and we had a talk about stuff, and she said she was going to help me out. And, like, I by the end of the call, I think I was starting to tear up because I should have just asked my godmother in the first place. Like, I've started to figure out who are the people that I can talk to about things, but it still doesn't always occur to me to be like, those are the people I should ask, not my parents. Yeah, and so, like, I was tearing up because it's like, that feeling of, like, finally someone gives a shit. There's something emotional about that. Like, it should be a happy thing. I don't understand why I get upset. Maybe it's connected to, like, thinking about what I do want from my parents and not get. I don't know. Brains are weird. Psychology is weird. It's something I need to work on, is just remembering who has my back and not asking my parents about stuff. So yeah, and that was sort of like a relief, like, things will be sorted. Okay. But then as I tried to get back to sleep, I got a freaking SMS from Centrelink. And this is the second day in a row saying they're going to call me about something. But I missed it yesterday because they called before 9 a.m. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb from, I think, about 11 p.m. until 9 a.m. Because, like, 9 a.m. is when most businesses open, 9 to 5, business hours. But no, they called at 8 something. And so, yeah, my phone just didn't go off. So today, I actually changed my Do Not Disturb to, like, release at 8. But they didn't send me the SMS until after 9 anyway. And then I turned on the light, rolled over, and I was, like, looking at my phone going, okay, there's going to be a call. Yesterday, they called after 5 minutes, and of course I didn't hear it. Today, I was waiting, 5 minutes pass, still no call. And it got to about, like, 20 minutes of just sort of, like, looking at my phone, trying to keep myself awake, and I'm just like, you know what, screw it. So I lay back down. And, I don't think I slept then, because, like, there's so much noise, and especially towards that, like, towards the end of that, hour of 9 o'clock, is when my little brother, like, he has his carer changeover. And that can be very noisy, because of course he's moving around the house, and then, I think on Wednesday he's really into the carer, and so he'll, like, screech so loud. And so that was all happening around 9:50-ish. I mean, I didn't check the time, and I wish I had, because then maybe I would have seen that that's when Centrelink decided to call me. But I was completely unaware. Apparently, I didn't hear the ringtone go off. And I'm just talking to you about how I don't sleep through all this noise. But somehow this phone right next to my head, or, like, on the little table, but basically, like, this far from my head, somehow I didn't hear the ringtone go off. I'm like, did I sleep through that? Or did they somehow call me and hang up straight away, like, within just enough time for it to register on my phone without triggering the ringtone? I tried to test this on our home phone, and I couldn't make it happen. Like, if I hung up too early, it wouldn't ring on my phone. But if I hung up too late, like, I couldn't find that sweet spot of making it appear on my phone without the ringtone going off. So I don't know how I didn't hear it. Like, yeah, okay, I was drifting off, but that's when all this noise was going on, so I'm really confused about that. If I slept through the phone, despite everything, I would be super surprised. And so I'm just like, that's one of the weird things from today. Yeah, and then once everyone finally left the house, and it finally got quiet, I did sleep. And then I had some really messed up dreams. I don't think this has anything to do with my mood. It's just one of these weird things that I'll tell you anyway. Geez, I should have written it in my little poetry dream book, but I wrote it in my psychology diary instead. Yeah, so the first sort of dream was like, it got vague very fast, so I don't remember details, but there was something about some kind of a creature, and I think, having gone past it, but like having a sense that it was dangerous. And then there's this door, and it's kind of in this small building, and there's a wall, and then there's a door, and this is probably from watching Tom Cruise stuff. And there's a sandstorm, and it's like gets really full on. And so like, I go and slam the door shut before it can come through the other room into, where I am with some other people. Slam the door shut, and then things seem fine. But then an even bigger gust of whatever comes through, and I try and do it again, but all the sand is you're just pushing too hard, and so the door starts opening, and we're like, oh shit, and that creature's in the other room as well. And then other people in the room realize the wall is starting to push in as well, so they're trying to push the wall back, but by this time the building is almost completely gone. So that's the first part of the dream. The second part is, so this time, I think I was outside a building, and there's like a doorway and walking in, but that's kind of not really relevant to the main thing that I remember. Like, there was some girl, and then there was this other girl, and I had this sense that one of the girls was actually a doll, but there's some illusion to make her look like a real person, and I was able to observe her going after this other girl who was apparently like, I don't know if she was in a trance or what was happening, but the doll girl goes to the real girl and pulls out like a strand of her hair and then replaces it with doll hair. And then I had a sense of, this has been going on for a long time. Like, every day this doll girl comes to the real girl, pulls out a bit of hair, like real human hair, puts in a bit of doll hair. And so, over time, over many, many days, the real girl's head, her hair is gradually being turned into doll hair. She doesn't notice for some reason. Maybe that's more of an illusion thing. And then eventually gets to a point where, so much of her hair's been replaced. I don't know if she's then drugged or what, but she sort of loses the ability to move, and then the doll girl does like the final steps to fully transform her into a doll. And it's like this really messed up kind of horror thing. And I know I did just watch, the possessed thing I voice acted in, but that's completely different. It's demons and possession. I don't watch any kind of horror that involves dolls, because I don't give a shit about dolls. I haven't watched the Barbie movie. I guess maybe the advertising could have been a subconscious thing. I didn't watch that Megan movie, or was it a Netflix series? I don't even know. That's how little I know about it, how little I care. Like, dolls are just not an interest. So I don't know where that dream came from, but when I woke up, I was like, what the heck was that? Now, often in the past, I wouldn't tell a dream like that, because I'm like, ooh, I could keep that as a story idea for myself, and I don't want other people to get my ideas. I realize that seems to be listed as like one of those schizoid things where you're very protective of your ideas, and I'm just like, nah, you know what, makes for a good YouTube story. And also, because I'm not interested in dolls, it's not like part of my sort of sense of self and all that, like, I don't really feel an ownership over the doll idea, so I don't really care. Whereas there are other dreams that go much more to the core of like my sense of self and my experience of myself and so on, and those dreams, you're gonna have to wait until I'm dead and pick up my poetry dream books, unless I can write down 100 dreams, so that's probably why I should have documented that in there. But if I write 100 dreams, I might release it like my poetry books. Shit, I still haven't finished proofreading my next poetry book. Ugh, I've got too many things going on. Music's my priority at the moment. But yeah, no, if I ever get to 100, maybe I'll release a dream book. But there are some seriously screwed up dreams in there that I wrote a very long time ago that I kind of don't want to revisit. At least with the poetry is kind of vague, and so you can, read into different interpretations. Even if I'm not always rhyming it, and I kind of, sometimes it seems prose-like, there is imagery in that, and so people can interpret it however they want and wonder what the hell is going on in my head. Some of it's more obvious than others, but I just feel safer with poetry, in terms of like showing like this is actually stuff that's gone on in here, whereas the dream diaries are more prose style, and so it's more like I can't weasel out of it if I suddenly feel sensitive about something in there. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. So dreams and stuff. And then yeah, what woke me from that sort of phase of dreaming is there was a delivery I had to sign for because no one else was home, and I just heard like this tapping on the door. We do have a doorbell, but I don't know, maybe I didn't hear it from there. All I heard was like hope woofing and the door going da 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 da. And so sort of stumbled out of bed, awkwardly grabbed my glasses. I probably looked like such a mess because I felt like a mess. Because, like as I mentioned, when my godmother rang me and all that, like afterwards, I actually had a bit of a breakdown and sort of the silent screaming cry kind of thing. So I was still like, I was already screwed up for the day. Once that delivery happened, then I came back to bed and saw the missed call from Centrelink. And I'm just like, why? I've told them so many times that I don't function in the morning, and they keep trying to call me in the morning. And like, there's so many things it could have been about as well. Although, actually, no, they did write what it was about, but I'm also waiting for a resolution on a complaint because I'm trying to update a thing. And there's just Centrelink. There's so many things that don't work on it. And, some of the administrative stuff that I was trying to work out that I needed my godmother's help for is related to Centrelink as well. And it's just, so much of my mood today is honestly ruined by them and trying to figure out how to deal with them. And it's just, like I get to a point where I feel like I'm dealing with life, and then Centrelink will do something else and it all comes crashing down, or they really are, I would say, a trigger for my issues. And like, so today's been really screwed up. So I tried to get back to sleep because I was just so exhausted. I hadn't slept well, and had been really upset. So but lying in bed, brain's just like, oh my god, now I've got to try and contact Centrelink and figure out what we're doing about this shit. Eventually I just turned on the light. Hope jumped up because he's like, oh, you turned the light on, it's time to play. He actually brought me his little red ball, and so threw that a couple times, and his energy jumping all over you, and it's like, oh my god, how can you stay in bed then? So I got up. He helped me get up. He helps me get up a lot of these days where I'm not doing so well. But yeah, I went to the fridge. I usually have toast for breakfast. It's easier for me to have the same breakfast every day because I don't function in the morning, and it takes the decision making out of it. So I went to the fridge to get some bread, so I could make my toast. But as I'm looking at it, I just couldn't do it. I started to have another breakdown. It was really weird. It was like, just open the fridge, get the bread, and I'm just standing there like, all of a sudden, it was really bizarre. Like, it kind of didn't feel conscious. I don't know if that's how emotions just are, because like they're kind of not logical, but it just came out of nowhere. I got really upset. I think I might have done the silent screaming thing. I don't even remember. But yeah, I just was like, I cannot eat right now. So I managed to make myself my tea, and then what did I do after that? I don't even remember. Oh, I started sorting out the issues. So like, calling Centrelink. And they didn't put me on hold. The number they gave me actually didn't put me on hold this time. And I was so shocked because usually when you try and call Centrelink, if you can even get through in the first place to listen to a robot ask you a bunch of annoying questions, if you can even get through, you're usually on hold for like 40 minutes to an hour. And hopefully it doesn't drop the call on you midway. So yeah, when I called that and got through straight away, I was just like, what? And like I was trying to explain, I got this message saying I need to call this number, and I just stumbled over my words and it was super awkward. And I think the lady on the other end probably heard that I was still really upset. I wasn't able to hide it. Interestingly, I've had to make a few phone calls lately, and there's only been like maybe one where I was on hold for an hour, where the music and all, and like just waiting and listening to like the robot pop up saying you're progressing through the queue kind of stuff, like that kind of useless stuff they pop on to hold music. It was the same hold music the whole way through as well, which was just like and it just makes me so, that builds the anxiety. But other phone calls that I've had to make lately, I haven't felt anxiety, and I don't know if that's just because I'm so tired or what, but yeah, weird. And when I called this one though, just stumbled over my words because I was so shocked to get right through, and yeah, so I think that's sorted for now. But the other things are not sorted, and yeah, anyway, so I look through my psychology notes because that's sort of like the first part of my day, but that basically colored my entire day, is just having such a stressful morning. And then, oh yeah, there were some more administrative things that I had to do, and I had to like get some, two-factor thing set up, and the thing wasn't working properly until I like, did all this convoluted stuff. Like, sometimes when something's not working, if you just keep tapping stuff, or if you change a bunch of settings, eventually the app will get confused and do what it's supposed to do when you get those dysfunctional apps. So, there was a lot of screwing around there, and eventually I got that sorted. I did grab the phone and try and call one of those helplines to try and sort things out, but then it's like, sorry, the robot told me, oh, we've got too much volume at the moment, try again later. And I'm just like, oh. But I managed to get it sorted on my own. Oh. And that the only time that either of my parents asked me if things were okay at all today was when I think, because I was so stressed, I just burst into the other room where the phone is and grabbed it, and Dad was, I think by then he was sitting with Mikey. Wow, my sense of time is really off. He was sitting with Mikey, and he asked something about like what's wrong or whatever, and I'm just like in the middle, I'm like, I don't have time to explain, like it's a really long story. It would make this video go even longer if I tried to explain everything that's going on. But yeah, I think just seeing me like grab the phone being like, ugh, that's the only time anyone asked me anything. Earlier in the morning, I asked Mum some stuff because things about Mikey's care are going to be a bit complicated for the next few weeks, and I was trying to find out what do I need to do, and, I mentioned a psychology thing I've got to do, and she kind of just was like, kept talking about Mikey stuff. There was no curiosity about what's this psychology thing, it's not the normal psychology thing. No curiosity, just more telling me what I need to do with Mikey's stuff. My disabled brother, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting if I've already mentioned in this video who's who. So yeah, I just sort of feel, I don't know, having a bad start to the day, and then not feeling supported by my parents, and not feeling like they even show any interest. And so I just didn't tell them anything about what's going on, apart from like the thing I had to ask Mum about. I just didn't tell them all the things that have gone on today, and all the things that I've had to sort it out, and all the steps I've had to go through to sort things out. Instead, I've just kept messaging my godmother, which, like, she's really supportive, and and then also, like, messaging with my friend. My friend has been going through some stuff as well. And so I was trying not to distract her, but, I just gave her a little summary. And I think she was actually glad for like a distraction from her issues. So we've talked about some of my issues as well. And yeah, she's also very supportive. They're different styles of supportive. But yeah, like I need to just... So I probably did the right thing today in not bothering to tell my parents anything. And I was just so subdued anyway. Like if they'd asked me, I don't think I would have been able to speak to them anyway, because I don't expect meaningful support, I guess. So, why bother explaining things to them when it's not going to help, it's not going to go anywhere. Yeah. So, oh my god, this psych diary is so long. There's no way she reads all this stuff. I think my last year psychologist did at least try to, read all the different things. I think the current one, it's too much. Yeah, oh god. And then at some point during today, I took Hope for a walk, and it happened to be when school was finishing up, the primary school was finishing up, and so there were all these kids walking around in costumes, and it just reminded me of book week when I was a kid, and I was the only kid who made my entire costume myself out of garbage bags and drawings, And I did that because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. People interpreted it as like, oh, isn't she creative and all this kind of stuff, because it was so obvious I was the only kid who'd made my own costume. But yeah, when I got there, I found out like everyone else, either their parents had made their costume or had hired it for them. Because I went to, Catholic private school, so there was a lot of rich fucks there. And yeah, they just hired costumes for their kids, and I don't know, like, yeah, creative, but am I creative because I had to be creative in some situations because I didn't know what else to do, and so I did things my way because I didn't know how things were meant to be done because I wasn't given the support to understand how the world works? Maybe, I don't know, it just... Also, like, seeing the parents with their kids and everyone seems so happy, and I'm just like, here comes some trauma feelings and lost childhood feelings, and so that didn't help. That started making me upset again. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And so, like, I got through today. I did the things that I needed to do. I'm a bit anxious about things next week, but for now, yeah, like, I made a note about how after all this, like, feeling tired, feeling dizzy, feeling exhausted, frustrated that I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do today. I wanted to film an audition, didn't get to do that. God, with these diary entries, I have to give my psychologist, like, the emotions that I'm feeling. Sometimes I don't put any emotions because I'm not sure, but today I've listed breakdowns, unhappy, stressed, anxious, exhausted, overwhelmed, frustrated, dizzy, tired. Overwhelmed, I think that's from trying to do too much. Anyway, yeah, so the last few days, because I've had so much music stuff going on and I've actually managed to focus really well, today's the first day in quite a while where I've done the YouTube plus Neopets combo and just vegged out and been like once I got everything sorted, I was just like, fuck it, gonna get some tea and I'm just going to sit and watch, things like, I caught up on a Malin Baker video, which I don't always watch his stuff these days because sometimes it's too Britain focused, but today was a bit more interesting. I think that was from the weekend, and caught up with a few other videos. Can't even remember all of them. There was one of like George Takei saying, something about how stupid people are. Your shame on your country, or I don't know, it looked like a really old clip. A bunch of stuff I watched. Anyway, so I did the YouTube and Neopets thing and just hello coping strategy. I actually needed it today. And then I was just quiet at dinner. I actually trimmed some of Hope's tummy hairs because they were looking a bit in need. Let's just say he went to the bathroom and he's got a lot of fur down there and not all of it made it onto the grass outside. Yeah. And so then after that, like after dinner, I finally got back to I finally was able to do finish my singing warm-ups. Because I did some earlier in the day and it was sort of like, there's no energy. So I finished my singing warm-ups after dinner, and then I was finally able to push myself into a higher energy level. I think maybe from eating, so I didn't have breakfast. I did have lunch. I had chips, and I had fish fingers with some Japanese mayo on a bit of bread. Dad stole one of my chips without asking, which he knows is something that I really dislike. So that pissed me off. And he also took a good chip. I don't like the crispy chips. Everyone knows that I don't like the crispy chips. So if you're gonna steal a chip from me, take a crispy chip. No, he took one of the good ones without asking, despite me having said multiple times that it just, please do not do that, especially not without asking. I know it's a minor thing, but it just shows a lack of respect and, adds on to all the other shit that I feel about my life and my childhood and the whole trauma thing. And, he's been coming to therapy and we're supposed to work on communication and he's just not playing ball, and I don't think he's capable. And so when I see my psychologist on Friday, I'm going to talk about that. I don't think it's worth having him in my sessions. Certainly not without Mum, because he just ends up talking about her the whole time. But yeah, no, that pissed me off. And especially today, on a day where I'm pretty sure it was obvious that I wasn't doing well, at least show some interest, like, okay, even if you don't pick up that something is wrong, at least show some interest or interact with me meaningfully before you go and steal one of my chips. Because he hadn't really said anything to me. All he had said is, he'd turned on the news and something's happening with Trump again, and he just did the usual sort of comment about how he doesn't like Trump. Like, the same sort of repetitive stuff. There are certain news stories that come up, and he always has the same comments, and I know I do it sometimes as well, but I was just like, oh my god. That's the only thing he said to me before taking my chip, is just, some comment about Trump. I went to go and get the tomato sauce and turn around, and he's stolen my chip. I know, that's a little bit of a rant that sounds kind of petty, but it's really, like, just don't fucking do it. Don't fucking do it. How hard is that? You have a mentally ill kid who's told you so many times that is one more little upsetting thing. Like, just don't fucking do it. Where was I going before that rant? I don't know. I was quiet at dinner, but after dinner I got the energy going, and just ignored everything. Got into singing practice. Singing practice went better than I was expecting, so hopefully I can record tomorrow. I just had to do the practice today because I did all the practice yesterday thinking I would record today. So now I have to do the practice today thinking I'll record tomorrow, and I think I did just enough that it should be okay. No way I can memorize the lyrics this quickly, but yeah. And then I thought about watching a movie, but I thought I want to record a vlog for YouTube because I just need a rant. Get this shit off my chest. So I'm not going to watch the Jekyll and Hyde movie that I got. Oh shit, did I tell you I got another Jekyll and Hyde movie? Okay, fine, we'll talk about Friday just quickly. Seeing as this vlog is so long and some of you like long rambly vlogs. Okay, Friday. I've got this goal where I want to try and get out of the house meaningfully at least once a week. So that means basically leaving my suburb. Because I walk my dog around the place. That's not leaving my suburb. That's easy. I mean, like, actually getting out of the suburb, maybe catching the bus somewhere, or I don't know. Going to therapy counts at this stage. I don't have enough energy for that to not count. So, last week I didn't have therapy, so I went out instead. I went and saw Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise is insane. Oh my god, the promotions for that motorbike cliff jump thing, you'd think it would be a longer scene, but all that effort and it's such a short thing, and one day a stunt is gonna go horribly wrong and it's all gonna be on camera and it would have just been for like a few seconds of footage. So insane Scientology powers. I enjoy his movies. It was fun. It was a little long. Didn't need to be quite that long. There are a few slow bits where they could have tightened it up and at least shaved a few minutes off here and there. But so knowing that I was going to see that and it's a long movie, and then if you add in previews, it's like, shit, I'm going to be in there for 3 hours. So before I left, I made sure to have breakfast like as early as possible. As soon as I got up, made sure to eat and drink and not have anything else so that I wouldn't have to pee during the movie. What saved me from Star Wars Episode 8, the casino scene, I missed most of it because I had to run out to pee, and I'm told that that's the worst part of the movie. So that's probably why I didn't think it was as shit as everyone else did. Also, they had a lot of duality imagery, and I am a real sucker for that, so they manipulated me. But yeah, no, I was like, Tom Cruise, I don't want to have to run out to the bathroom, so I starved myself, dehydrated myself. In hindsight, probably a bad idea, because then I went maybe 5 or 6 hours before I actually, because I had to have the time before the movie and then in the movie. By the end of the movie, I was starting to need to pee, but I hung on, and cool, fun, good movie. But yeah, after that, I wasn't feeling so great. I went to the bathroom and I was like shaking a bit, and it's not just adrenaline, it was like the deprivation, because usually I eat more often than that. And I think it was also past my usual like having a cup of tea time, so probably low on caffeine. So anyway, my next, like I had a plan of activities to get done, because when I do leave the house, I try and squeeze everything in, and yeah, I overdid it this time, but I just don't want to have to leave the house for multiple trips. If I can get everything done in one trip, that's one less outing I have to go on, right? Right? It's just, yeah, there's a limit to how much I can do. Anyway, so the next thing on the list was JB Hi-Fi because they had a sale, so that's how I got this. Yay! Finally tracked that down. And also, these. Whoopsie daisy. Okay, so originally my plan was to get this on DVD, not Blu-ray, and this DVD, because they didn't have the other one in stock. I go in, and I find the DVD and the Blu-ray, and I'm just like, I'm super, like, deprived. This was not meant to be there. I checked on the website before I went in to know what was there. So I knew they had this on DVD in stock, in stock, and this was not in stock. The closest one was so far away that I never go there, and I thought I was safe. But no. So when I saw the two of these, you know, DVD and Blu-ray, I just left them. And I thought, okay, I'll think about it. I'll go and find Godzilla first. Sure enough, Godzilla on DVD. Fine, we're happy with that. I watched it on either Netflix or Stan, one of those streaming services a little while ago, and it's really good. I don't care what the haters say. I think it was a really good movie. It wasn't meant to be Japanese Godzilla. It's American Godzilla. Get over it. And actually the story is quite good, and the action is quite good and quite clever, and it's a well-structured story, so fuck off. And yes, I'm half Japanese. I'm allowed to shit on the Japanese stuff. Everyone's allowed to shit on the Japanese stuff, but, you know, there'll be some people who'll be like, anyway, yeah. So while I was in the Godzilla aisle, I was thinking, you know what? If they have this on Blu-ray, maybe they were lying about this as well. And then I found it. Now, the original price tag on it was $16, whereas on the website I'd seen with sales and all that, it was actually meant to be $4, and I thought, oh crap, because I don't want to, I've got so many, I actually have a bunch of Jekyll and Hyde movies, and most of them suck. Most adaptations of Jekyll and Hyde ever suck. Even the musical has great songs, but they completely missed the point of the source material, turned it into a love story, got confused about what message they were trying to send. It's a real shit show. Music's great. The musical story's a shit show. Anyway, yeah, so I've been trying not to buy any more Jekyll and Hyde, but those of you who know me better will know that I'm kind of don't have a choice. If I see this shit, I don't buy this shit. I'm such a fucking sucker. I'm so predictable. Anyway, I thought, $16, I'll go and ask them to scan it and check the price for me. If it's $16, I'll leave it. If it's $4, I'll buy it. And then once I had that in my hand, I mean, I was doomed once I had it in my hand, but I went back and I was like, you know what? Fate has delivered this to me. Perhaps fate has delivered this to me as well. And at this point, I wasn't sure that I was in the credits either. And I thought, well, if I am in the credits, probably I want the HD version. So yeah, I ended up buying more. Upgrading was maybe like $5 more and getting this, which I wasn't supposed to buy at all. And sure enough, it scanned in at $4, and I was like, all right, I've run out of excuses. My excuse was going to be it's too expensive, and they couldn't deliver that to me. So now I have another one of these goddamn movies. I'm not going to watch it until tomorrow. I'll watch it right before I go and see my psychologist. That won't make me crazy. Anyway, so I bought that. Then I went to Char Time. I've been avoiding Char Time in part because I went to one near where my psychiatrist is, and the sugar, like, it was so sweet. I was just like, ugh. And I don't know if that was a perception thing or if they actually put too much sugar in, but I was just like, oh my god, it's too much. Also, now we all have the paper straws. I don't even remember that time what the straw was like, but yeah, I was just like, I don't want to have Char Time anymore. I should move on. But because I was feeling so, like, even when I was paying for all these DVDs, I was like shaking as I handed my card over, and I'm like, this isn't normal. I usually have quite steady hands. I mean, these days, I'm a bit older now, but, you know, about more than a decade ago, my ex took me to a shooting range, and they tried to recruit me, like, you know, to do shooting as a sport, which would have been a terrible idea, because apparently, like, you know, my aim was actually pretty good for a beginner, and my hands were really steady, whereas my ex is sort of, Oh no, he's done too many. Anyway, let's not make too many accusations, but, no, he was the sort of type who played Call of Duty and thought that would make him good at shooting, and I'm like, nah, bitch, steady hands. Wow, me with guns is a terrifying idea, and the idea that I'm also good at it, that's terrifying too. But we won't talk too much about that. Yeah, I was shaking at JB Hi-Fi, so I was like, fuck, I need to get some caffeine into me and some fluids, so I went to Cha Time, and, yeah, it was really good. The sugar level was fine, and the paper straw was actually quite good. And I'm just like, cool, because a lot of places have really bad paper straws, and so now I have no excuse to avoid Cha Time. I can stick to that addiction. Oh well. Then I went to the bookstores, and there were just no good bookstores. I'm gonna have to go into the city, because that's where the horror ones are. I feel like I've already told this story. Maybe I told it in another one. I can't even remember what videos I make, so I'm sorry if this is repetitive. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go into the city, because that's where they have the bigger bookshops, and they actually have a horror section, and for some reason, I know why. I only want to read horror stuff. Because this shit and, this shit. Are you noticing a theme? This one was actually really interesting, though, for, you know, like the world building and stuff. Interesting. But yeah, no, and I found that in a horror section, and the other one, it's actually called The Possession, is the other book. How predictable am I? My god, it turns out it's the second in a series, though, and it wasn't the best written, but it was... I shouldn't fall for that. Yeah, but I just couldn't find any books I wanted to read in these bookstores. They had no horror section, and I used to be into a lot of science fiction, but I was looking at them and I just couldn't feel anything for what I was looking at. Maybe it's because I know more science, and a lot of these authors, the science is kind of like, yeah, nah. But I think also it's just like where my brain's at. My brain wants the horror, my brain wants to reinforce this as much as my efforts to avoid that stuff. No, I think I might be about to go into another one of those phases where I end up watching Fight Club about 28 times. Sorry, what? Yeah, so then I was sitting around and I ended up going to Nando's a bit early. Nando's, I'm so predictable there as well. I paid on my loyalty points, it didn't cost me anything, and I finally started to feel better once I had some food in me. Then I pottered around the market, and then I went and saw a gig. There's so many. I did mention this at some point, but there were so many people that I haven't seen since before the pandemic, like metal scene people, and they remember me and they give a shit about me. You know, at least as a musician. And so actually, no, I do have friends in there. It's just been so long that I'm like, I only stayed for one band, though. The second band started playing and the bass was a bit loud. The sound at this place isn't so good. And just, you know, after Nando's I did feel a bit better, but my body was kind of wrecked and I left. And I'm glad I left after 2 songs of the second band, because by the time I was on the bus to come home, I felt like throwing up the whole way home, basically. And then I ended up staying up late because I had to, you know, do Hope's night routine, his dental routine, and then I got bogged down doing something. I don't even remember what I was doing. Maybe it was YouTube related, maybe not. Shit, that was on Friday, and like, so I did way too much that day. And this is in the context of having done way too much music through the week as well. And yeah, and you know, people say that when you're having fun or you're in flow and you're doing a lot of stuff, when you're doing a lot of stuff, that time goes by faster. I'm not having that experience. I'm so busy that my day feels like one day feels like it could be 2 or 3 days, and then the next day will come and I'll think about yesterday and be like, was that all yesterday? Maybe because I'm so used to doing nothing, but it's really bizarre and it's screwing with my sense of time. And I think when I'm interacting with some people, like, you know, trying to work with people to maybe start bands, join bands, whatever, I keep thinking that I've left them waiting for like a week or two, and my brain's exaggerating how long they've been waiting for stuff, so I feel like I have to work faster. But actually, it was only a couple days ago. It's really bizarre, and so yeah, my brain is playing tricks on me, and maybe that's also part of the burnout. I don't know if it's always been like that, or if it's just now because I'm at such a state, especially after the pandemic. I've spent so much time sitting around not doing anything, and especially having my cousin from Japan and me feeling like I couldn't do anything, so I spent like, almost 6 months just sitting in my room, mostly watching YouTube and playing Neopets, not really doing very much. Then all of a sudden, all these opportunities and all these things, and my days get really busy. Like, is it that contrast that I'm like shocked that I fit so much stuff into the day? Or is it some quirk of my psychology where I don't experience that flow or whatever people experience that speeds up time? I've also heard that as you age, time is supposed to move faster, and it's something about like a frame of reference, because when you're young, you only know that much time, and so everything feels like it's taking forever. But when you're older, the ratio of like one day to how long you've lived is like, if you're 1 day old, that's your entire lifespan. If you're 2 days old, that was half your entire lifespan. But if you're 40 years old, it's like this tiny fraction of your life. And so supposedly time speeds up as a frame of reference thing. But I'm not having that experience. Time is dragging on. There are some things where I'm like, oh, the pandemic was started 3 years ago? That feels like... Actually, no, I'm not sure. Maybe that's not a good example. I think maybe my sense of time fluctuates, but as far as like where I am at a given point in time, as opposed to remembering a point of time, like the previous few weeks, it just always feels like it's dragging on, taking forever. I don't know if that's just me, if that's a quirk of my psychology, if it's part of having a mental illness or what, but I don't share that experience of time speeding up as you age. Time is dragging on. Maybe it's also because I'm not enjoying life, and so, I'm sort of counting down the days until I'm done being alive, but, yeah, I don't know. Time moves slowly, and that makes it harder, I think, sometimes. Anyway, so this has been a decent long vlog. I don't know if I'll be able to upload it tonight. It's so fucking long. But yeah, no, today was just... Yesterday I was doing fine. I seemed like things were going well. And then today, I still have that leftover depression headache, and I really just need to go to bed and wake up tomorrow and hopefully refresh. Yeah, I should go to bed rather than upload this. But yeah, it's annoying that I can't predict when I'm going to have a shit day like this, where suddenly I'm struggling to function at all, and I'm thinking morbid things, and I don't know, it feels weird that everything just happened at once. It's not just that I got, too overwhelmed with my own commitments and created the situation. There are actually external things that all hit at once. I don't know what that is. And I do think it's probably added to me overdoing things, but just the coincidence, and yeah, there's a lot that I can't predict, and maybe for a regular person it would be an inconvenience, but for me, with mental illness and all that, when things, like, it just, all of a sudden I can barely function. I couldn't even eat breakfast, like, come on. And then really slow today, and I'm amazed I pulled it together, and I just hope that I wake up better tomorrow, because I really need to film this. Film or record? I haven't actually decided. I just need to lay down this track. Anyway, stuff and things, join my cult, blah blah blah. I'm gonna go to bed. Oh. Bye.